Hello everyone. Enjoy these relaxing moments while you watch. A widow with 2 children saw that a wealthy man had thrown a luxury carpet into the dump. She quickly decided to take it and unroll it. As soon as she opened it, her entire body trembled. The afternoon was slowly fading at the dump, where a woman was rummaging for something edible to take home. Olivia Martin was desperately searching for something to feed her children. Scarlett and Jackson played at a safe distance, too innocent to realize their mother's despair at not being able to provide them with a simple meal. Olivia, a woman with strong and determined features, carried the weight of the world on her shoulders. Widowed at 38, her life had become a daily series of challenges after losing her husband. "Mama, I'm hungry," complained Scarlett, her youngest daughter, tugging gently at her mother's skirt. Olivia smiled sadly at her, assuring her that they would soon find something to eat, though she wasn't sure of it herself. As she sifted through a more distant pile of garbage, Olivia felt her fingers touch something surprisingly soft. Pulling the object, she discovered a luxurious carpet, incredibly out of place in that environment. Her heart raced at the thought that such a piece could be worth some money, but what she found next left her breathless. Hidden within the folds of the carpet was a thick envelope full of banknotes. "That's a lot of money," she murmured to herself, instinctively looking around. The decision about what to do with the discovery weighed on her like a stone. "Mama, what is it?" Jackson approached, curious, seeing his mother's worried expression. Olivia quickly hid the envelope. "Nothing, my love, just an old carpet," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Let's take it home. It might be useful." As they prepared to leave the dump, Olivia noticed a distant figure watching them. The silhouette was shrouded in the falling twilight, making it difficult to discern any details. The presence of the observer made her heart race, mixing fear with the adrenaline of the discovery. "Mama, who is that person watching us?" Scarlett asked, her voice low and tinged with fear. Olivia gripped her daughter's hand tighter. "I don't know, dear, but let's go home now," she said, quickening her pace with the children by her side. "Should we tell someone about what we found?" Jackson asked about the expensive carpet his mother was carrying, his eyes fixed on her, trying to read her expression. "We'll decide that at home," Olivia replied, her mind spinning with the implications of what the discovery could mean. "For now, we need to keep this between us." They hurried away, the sound of their quickened steps blending with the murmurs of the falling night. The figure watching them remained still, and when Olivia looked back one last time, it had disappeared. The uncertainty of that sight left her uneasy, but the need to protect her children and the possible solution to their financial difficulties drove her forward. After discovering the envelope full of money, Olivia locked the fragile door of her shack with a growing sense of discomfort. The humble home, made up of worn wooden walls and a roof that barely kept out the rain, seemed even more vulnerable that night. Scarlett and Jackson watched their mother with sad eyes, still remembering the hunger they had expressed earlier. Before deciding on the next step, Olivia improvised a simple meal with some vegetables she had managed to salvage earlier, calming her children's rumbling stomachs. As they ate, the weight of what she had found did not lessen. In her nervousness, she knew she needed advice and help, but without a phone at home, her only option was to seek help in person. "Mama, will we be okay?" Scarlett asked innocently, nibbling on a spoonful of dinner. Olivia smiled at her, though her heart was tight with worry. "We will, dear. We just need to be careful," she replied, trying to hide her anxiety. Determined, she wrapped the envelope in an old cloth and told her children she would be back soon. Olivia walked through the poorly lit streets of the neighborhood to the small local police station, where she knew she could find someone trustworthy. When she arrived, she found Officer Ethan Johnson patrolling near the station, as was his custom. Ethan was an old acquaintance who patrolled the neighborhood, always kind and attentive to the community's needs. "Ethan, I need help," Olivia said, approaching him with the hidden envelope. "I found this today, and I'm afraid it might bring trouble." Ethan looked at the package seriously. "Let's see what you found," he said, guiding her inside the station where they could talk more privately. Olivia explained the situation as Ethan examined the money. "You did well to bring this here, Olivia. This seems to be too large an amount not to be involved in something illegal." I will record this, and we will investigate where it came from according to the serial numbers on the bills, explained Ethan, already starting to fill out a report. Leaving the money in Ethan's care, Olivia felt a momentary relief. He promised to keep everything confidential until more information was discovered. When she arrived at the entrance of her house, Olivia's heart was pounding, still unsure if she had made the right choice. As she walked through her simple porch, a piece of paper caught her attention. A small envelope with a note was on the worn table. Olivia picked it up and read the handwritten message, "Stay out of this. Forget the money." Her blood ran cold. She looked around but saw no one. Clutching the note in her hand, Olivia closed the door of the house, now aware that the situation was more dangerous than she had imagined. The first thing she did was hug her children, promising herself that she would do whatever it took to protect them, even if it meant facing unknown threats. In the following days, the tension around Olivia increased. The routine of the shack remained unchanged externally, but internally, everything seemed different. She kept a constant watch, feeling eyes in every shadow. The neighbors, once friendly, now cast suspicious glances and whispered among themselves when she passed, increasing Olivia's sense of isolation. She knew there must be some rumor about what had happened. Probably, someone had seen her go to the police. "Mama, why are people acting strange?" Jackson asked one morning as he watched through the kitchen window. Olivia, who was preparing a modest breakfast with the money she had made from selling some things she found in the trash, thought deeply before answering her son. "Sometimes people get nervous or scared when they don't understand something, dear. They don't know what happened, but they know something happened." Scarlett, hearing the conversation, looked at her mother with big worried eyes. "Do they think we did something bad?" "No, my dear. We didn't do anything wrong," Olivia assured, fixing Scarlett's hair while trying to disguise her own anxiety. As the day went on, the feeling of being watched did not diminish. Olivia noticed a black car she did not recognize driving slowly down the dirt road where she lived. The first time it passed, she thought it was a coincidence. The second time, her heart began to beat faster. When the car passed a third time, briefly stopping in front of her shack before moving on, fear took hold of her. That night, while her children slept, Olivia sat at the kitchen table, her hands trembling with nervousness. She tried to calm her nerves, but the silence of the house seemed a stark contrast to the whirlwind of thoughts in her mind. It was almost midnight when the sound of an engine breaking the night's silence made her get up abruptly. Peeking through the tattered curtain, she saw the same black car parked across the street. A hooded figure got out and began walking toward her house. Olivia quickly retreated, her heart pounding erratically. "This can't be a coincidence," she murmured to herself, feeling a mixture of fear and anger. She ran to her children's room, gently waking them. "We need to go to the back of the house," she whispered, guiding them to a hidden place in the house where she kept some tools and old boxes. "Mama, what's happening?" Jackson asked, his voice trembling in the dark. "Stay quiet," Olivia instructed, her voice firm though her heart was in turmoil. The minutes dragged on like hours as they waited in the dark. Olivia listened to every sound outside, imagining whether the figure would decide to enter. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the sound of the engine was heard again, and the car left. Olivia let out a sigh of relief but knew that the night had been more of a warning than an end to their problems. "Let's go back to bed, okay?" she said, trying to return some normalcy to her children's night. As she led the children back to bed, Olivia knew things were far from okay. The visit that night was a clear reminder that danger was still very close, perhaps more than ever. The next morning, after the nighttime incident, Olivia had barely slept. As soon as the sun began to light the dusty horizon, she was already up, making coffee in the kitchen, her mind still clouded by fear and uncertainty. Scarlett and Jackson woke up to the smell of coffee and joined her, feeling the tension that still hung in the air. "Mama, are you okay?" Jackson asked, noticing the deep circles under Olivia's eyes. She forced a smile as she served the coffee. "Yes, my love, just a little tired," she lied, trying to protect the children from her own worries. The day before, she had managed to sell many things, so they had a peaceful breakfast. Olivia's dream was to get a good job so her children could eat with dignity, But few wanted to hire a simple woman like her, especially when she didn't have money to buy decent clothes for interviews. She made do with the little she had. After breakfast, there was a knock on the door. Olivia felt her heart leap. Cautiously, she approached and opened the door. There stood Ethan, the police officer, with a grave expression. "Olivia, we need to talk," he said, entering. "There have been developments regarding the money you found." She led him to the small kitchen table, and Ethan looked at her seriously before continuing. "We discovered that the money is directly linked to a large financial fraud network. More concerning, we discovered how they knew you found the money." Olivia swallowed hard, feeling a knot form in her throat. "How do they know?" she asked, fearing the answer. "A man was watching the dump while you found the carpet. A distant camera caught him leaving the carpet, and shortly after, you finding the object. However, we couldn't identify him in the recording. So we traced the origin of the money and concluded that the person behind it all is Alexander Lopez, a name you might recognize. He is very influential and dangerous." Olivia's mind was spinning. Alexander Lopez was known in the city, a businessman with a reputation both as a philanthropist and as someone not to be crossed. Some said he was involved with the mafia. Olivia had seen the man in the neighborhood before, accompanied by some dangerous men. "What does he want from me?" Olivia asked, her voice trembling slightly. Ethan maintained his focus on Olivia. "He wants to ensure you don't cooperate with the police. He has a lot to lose if this investigation continues," he explained, looking her directly in the eyes. As soon as Ethan left, a noise outside caught Olivia's attention. She peeked through the window and saw a car parking. It wasn't the black car from before, but a more expensive and imposing vehicle. Out came Alexander Lopez himself, accompanied by two large men who seemed to be there to ensure the mobster's safety. This time, the woman had no way to ignore it. There was no time to flee, so she opened the door, trembling with fear. "Olivia dear. I am Alexander Lopez. I believe you have heard my name in this town. We are all concerned about you," Alexander began, his voice as smooth as honey. "We heard about your find, and we're very impressed with your honesty," he said ironically. It was clear from his tone that he detested Olivia for turning the money over to the police, as it would lead them to him. Despite the fear she felt, Olivia knew she couldn't show anything that could be used against her. "What do you want with me, Alexander?" Alexander maintained his focus on Olivia. "I just want to ensure there are no misunderstandings. It would be a shame if your cooperation with the police harmed the community. We both know that sometimes it's better to let things be, don't we? And pretend we didn't find anything." Alexander's gaze was a clear warning, and Olivia felt a chill run down her spine. He was here not just to intimidate her but to do so publicly, showing he didn't fear the consequences of his actions. Even though Olivia had reported him to the police, he came to her house. By now, all the neighbors must have seen Alexander's car at her door. It was a reminder that he didn't fear those who reported him or the police. "I'll think about what you said," Olivia managed to say, her voice firmer than she felt. Alexander smiled again, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Great, that's all I ask." He turned, signaling for his bodyguards to follow as he returned to his car. After the man left, Olivia felt the storm was far from over. "I'll solve this," she said, but the words felt more like a question than a statement. As she closed the door, she knew the challenge she faced now was greater than she could have ever imagined. In the days following Alexander Lopez's visit, Olivia felt as if she were living under a magnifying glass. The neighbors' stares became heavier, whispers more frequent, and the atmosphere around her house more oppressive. Olivia did her best to maintain a normal routine for Scarlett and Jackson, but the constant fear of retaliation consumed her thoughts every moment. "Mama, people are acting strange again," Jackson commented as they returned from a quick trip to the local market. Olivia held his hand tightly, squeezing it slightly. "We will be fine. We just need to be strong," she replied, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. One day, after arriving home, Olivia noticed something strange on the front door. A message was scribbled in red ink, the letters carelessly formed. "Stop talking or pay the price." Olivia's heart raced. She looked around, searching for someone who might have been the author of the message, but the streets were eerily quiet. They wanted her to drop the report, probably claiming that she was mistaken and that the money was hers. "Mama, what does this mean?" Scarlett asked, her voice trembling with fear. Olivia quickly guided her inside, locking the door behind her. "Nothing, dear. It's just someone trying to scare us," she said, trying to appear calm, but her heart was pounding like a drum in her chest. She moved away from the door and went to the public phone near her house, dialing Ethan's number with trembling hands, hoping he would answer quickly. "Ethan, it's Olivia. Someone wrote a threat on my door. I'm really scared now," she confessed, her voice almost a whisper. "I'm on my way," Ethan responded without hesitation. "Don't leave the house and keep the doors and windows locked." While waiting for Ethan, Olivia gathered the children in the living room, trying to distract them with games, but her mind was elsewhere. She jumped at every noise, every shadow passing by the window, her fear growing with each passing minute. Ethan arrived within minutes, knocking urgently on the door. Olivia ran to open it, relieved to see his face. "Let me see the message," Ethan said, passing by her to examine the door. His face hardened when he saw the threatening words. "This is getting serious, Olivia. I will have to report this and maybe request police surveillance around here. Will that help?" Olivia asked, doubt clear in her voice. "We will do everything we can," Ethan assured, though his voice also carried a note of uncertainty. After Ethan left, Olivia sat on the sofa, watching Scarlett and Jackson play. She felt torn between telling them the whole truth about the danger they were facing and maintaining a facade of normalcy to protect their innocence. On the rainy morning of the next day, Olivia heard a noise outside and opened the door to her house. On the ground at the entrance was a thick envelope with no address, only Olivia's name written on the front. Her heart raced as she quickly looked around before picking up the envelope and taking it inside. "Mama, did someone knock on the door?" Jackson asked, watching her from the living room. "No, dear, it must have been just a wrong delivery, I think," Olivia lied, trying to keep her voice steady as she headed to the kitchen to open the envelope in private. She hated lying to her son, but it was necessary to keep him safe. Inside, she found a stack of densely filled documents and photographs. Olivia began to flip through the papers, and with each page turned, her expression grew paler. The documents detailed a corruption network not only linked to Alexander Lopez but intertwined with several prominent public figures in the city. There were records of payments, overpriced contracts, and communications implicating a series of illegal activities. Someone had left this to help her with the report. It's much worse than I imagined," Olivia whispered to herself, feeling the weight of the truth in her hands. Determined to understand the situation better, Olivia spent the entire morning analyzing the documents, absorbing every detail, every implication. The connections went beyond what she could have imagined, reaching the highest spheres of local power. In the afternoon, while Scarlett and Jackson played in the yard, Olivia sat in a chair contemplating her next steps. She knew that disclosing this information could trigger even more severe consequences, but she also understood that remaining silent could perpetuate the corruption that affected so many lives. It was then that the public phone in front of her house rang, breaking the street silence. Olivia ran to it and answered with trembling hands. "Olivia Martin?" a distorted voice asked from the other end of the line. "Yes, it's me," she replied, caution evident in her voice. "You don't know me, but I know what you received today. It is crucial that you understand the seriousness of the information I sent you. Trust no one," the voice warned, and before Olivia could ask more, the call was disconnected. Olivia stood there, the phone still in her hand, the warning echoing in her mind. She needed help, but as the anonymous voice had warned, who could she trust? Olivia felt increasingly isolated in her fight, with the true extent of the corruption now clearly in front of her, more personal and closer than she could have ever imagined. Upon returning home, she spread the documents out in front of her, each line a web of connections and corruption that now seemed to suffocate her. "Mama, do you want to play with us?" Scarlett called from the door with her innocent voice. "Later, dear," Olivia replied, forcing a smile. She got up, locking the documents in a drawer before joining the children. As she watched Scarlett and Jackson play, the seriousness of her situation became even more palpable. Protecting those two was her priority, But to what extent could she go without compromising their safety? Olivia's internal conflict grew. She pondered whether to expose the documents to the police, release them, and risk everything, or remain silent but complicit. Each option carried its own weight, its own pain. "Mama, I'm going to Javier's house to play," Jackson shouted from the entrance, breaking Olivia's chain of thought. "Wait, Jackson. I'll go with," Olivia started to say, but he had already left before she could finish the sentence. Olivia's heart raced. She ran to the door calling for him, but Jackson was already out of sight. Anxiety consumed her as she considered all the possible consequences of her decision to confront Alexander Lopez. Hours passed, and Jackson did not return. The sky was already tinged with shades of orange and purple when Olivia began searching for him, taking Scarlett with her. She asked all his friends in the neighborhood if they had seen her son, but no one knew his whereabouts. "Mama, where is Jackson?" "He will miss dinner," Scarlett asked, worry starting to form in her small eyes. Olivia tried to remain calm, but the anguish was evident in her voice. "He must be around. He'll be back soon," she tried to convince herself as much as her daughter. When darkness finally set in and there was still no sign of Jackson, panic took hold of Olivia. She grabbed the public phone, her hands trembling as she dialed Ethan's number once again. "Ethan, it's Olivia. My son, Jackson, he's missing. He just went to a friend's house and it's been hours," she stammered, her voice breaking with fear. "I'll send a patrol right now, Olivia." "We will find him," Ethan assured firmly. Olivia hung up the phone, her heart beating erratically. The idea that Jackson's disappearance could be related to her decision to fight corruption filled her with an overwhelming sense of dread. Indescribable terror. She wondered if her pursuit of justice had gone too far, if the price to pay would be higher than she was willing to offer. The night dragged on slowly, and each minute without news of Jackson felt like an eternity to Olivia. She paced back and forth in the living room, frequently peeking out the window, hoping to see her son running back home. Scarlett, feeling the tension, played quietly in the corner, casting worried glances at her mother from time to time. Suddenly, Olivia heard the sound of a car approaching her house and went to the door immediately. She recognized Alexander Lopez's vehicle and trembled. If he had her son, Olivia would turn into a viper, ready to strike. "I won't let anyone hurt Jackson," she thought. "Where is my son?" she asked Alexander as soon as he approached close enough to hear her. "Your son, dear? You must be out of your mind," he replied sarcastically. "I came to propose a deal." Alexander's voice was flat. "If you do anything to Jackson," she threatened, leaving the sentence hanging, undeterred by the powerful man in front of her. "I can indeed do something to your son. That's why I need you to cooperate," he said smoothly. "I'll give you a large sum of money to ensure your silence about everything you discovered. You must hand over everything you know. That way, you will never hear my name again, and your family will be safe," he said. Olivia knew he was lying. She would never be safe after returning Alexander's money and reporting him. "You have until tomorrow to decide. Otherwise, you will suffer the consequences," he finished, turning his back on Olivia. She knew he was neither lying nor exaggerating. Her heart pounded in her chest, her worry for her son growing. Olivia would not risk Jackson's life, but she knew that making a deal with Alexander would be futile. Olivia was still anxious when she heard police sirens. She ran to the door, fearing something had happened. It was Ethan who got out of a police car, his serious expression bringing a mix of relief and anxiety. "We found him," Ethan said quickly as Olivia opened the door. "He's okay. He was playing in a park nearby with his friend and lost track of time." Olivia let out a relieved sigh, feeling the weight of the world lift off her shoulders for a moment. "Thank you, Ethan. Thank you for everything." Jackson and his friend had gone to play outside the house, where he had lost track of time, which was why Olivia had not found him when she went there. Although Olivia had worried about the threats, fearing they had done something to her son, the situation proved to be a simple misunderstanding. Jackson was safe and had not been the target of any malicious acts involving his mother in the city's corruption. After a tight hug and many tears, Olivia prepared to thank Ethan again, but he interrupted her with a serious gesture. "We need to talk, Olivia. Inside, Olivia told Ethan about Alexander's visit and his proposal. However, the policeman was not convinced. "You and I both know that making a deal with Alexander guarantees nothing in the long run. It's just a purchase of silence, not safety," Ethan replied. Olivia pondered deeply, every part of her being struggling with the moral dilemma before her. "I can't accept, not after everything I've seen and know. It would be the same as being an accomplice. But I fear for my children's lives." Ethan nodded, respecting her decision. "I expected you to say that. I'll keep an eye on Jackson and Scarlett. I'll let all the officers know to keep them safe." After Ethan left, Olivia felt a strange peace mixed with fear. She was grateful that Jackson was safe and, at the same time, afraid something might happen. She prepared the children for bed, trying to act as if everything was normal. Feeling suffocated by worry, Olivia went to the front of the house to get fresh air. However, her sense of dread increased when she saw the front door ajar. She remembered locking it when she went to the bedroom. On the worn table on her porch was an envelope with several photographs of her and her children, with a message scribbled in red: "Think carefully about your choices." Trembling, Olivia gathered the photographs, realizing that her decision to fight had only intensified the dangerous game she was involved in. She now knew that every step forward would be even more dangerous, but backing down was not an option. The challenge was just beginning. The next day, 24 hours after Alexander's threat, near the time limit he had set, the situation worsened. Olivia received a call on the public phone from Ethan's police partner. The urgency in his voice was unmistakable. "Olivia, I need you to come to the hospital now." "What happened?" Olivia's voice trembled, fearing the answer. "Ethan was found in the park this morning, severely injured. He is in critical condition, intubated. He couldn't speak, but he asked me to tell you something immediately," Marco said, his voice carrying a weight that made Olivia's heart sink. Without losing a second, Olivia arranged for someone to watch the children and ran to the hospital. The white and sterile corridor of the hospital seemed to stretch infinitely as she made her way to the ICU where Ethan was admitted. Entering the room, Olivia was confronted with the sight of Ethan, motionless in the hospital bed, surrounded by tubes and machines beeping. Intermittently, tears flooded her eyes as she saw her friend and ally in that state. Marco, Ethan's police partner, placed a comforting hand on Olivia's shoulder. He was attacked from behind with no chance to defend himself. "It seems they knew exactly when he would be alone," Marco explained, the barely contained anger in his voice. Olivia felt a mix of pain and anger. "Why would they do this to him?" she asked, though deep down she knew the answer. "They want to intimidate you, Olivia. They want you to stop," Marco said directly, his gaze fixed on hers. The reality of those words hit Olivia like a blow. The attack on Ethan was not just a message for him, but a clear warning to her. As she sat beside Ethan's bed, holding his cold hand, Olivia pondered what to do. With every moment spent beside her injured friend, she felt her determination harden. "They want me to stop and drop the report," she murmured to herself, "but I can't. Not now." Returning home that night, Olivia felt the weight of her decision. She knew that continuing to fight could bring even more severe consequences, but the alternative, silence, now seemed impossible. As she opened the door to her house, a sense of desolation washed over her. It was clear that her fight had cost her a lot, and the price could continue to rise. "My God, please protect me. I just wanted to return the money and do the right thing," she prayed, scared. Olivia had barely closed the door behind her when she noticed something strange: an envelope carelessly tossed on the doormat. Her name was scribbled on it in grotesque letters. Trembling, Olivia picked up the envelope and tore it open with hesitant hands. Inside, she found a single sheet of paper with a message written in bold letters: "This is your last warning." Olivia held the paper with trembling hands, the reality of her situation more palpable than ever. With each decision, each step she took, the shadow of danger lengthened, touching everything and everyone she loved. The weeks following the last warning were marked by palpable tension that seemed to envelop Olivia's house like a thick fog. Every day, she reinforced the security of her home, adding more wood to block the door and installing new barricades on the windows. Life inside their home became a series of carefully orchestrated routines to ensure everyone's safety. One cloudy afternoon, while Olivia was organizing the documents, an unexpected call broke the apprehensive monotony. It was Marco, Ethan's partner, with news that made her heart stop for a moment. "Olivia, you won't believe it. Ethan woke up and is talking. He wants to testify, to tell everything he knows about Alexander Lopez's connections to corruption in the city." "You need to testify too." Olivia felt a mix of relief and fear. "I'm glad Ethan is better, Marco, but is it safe after everything that's happened? We're taking all precautions. Ethan is under police protection, and we're planning the hearing so that everything is kept secret until the last possible moment," Marco explained, his voice carrying a firm determination. In the days leading up to the testimony, Olivia felt torn between the hope that they could finally expose the truth and the persistent fear of more reprisals. She visited Ethan in the safe location where he was being kept, finding him remarkably recovered but still marked by the events that had almost cost him his life. "Olivia, we can't let him get away with this. He had me attacked, and he's threatening you. I'm sure he does this to others too. This is bigger than me, bigger than us," Ethan said, his conviction strengthening Olivia's resolve. Returning home on the eve of the scheduled testimony, Olivia prepared a meal for her children with the little she had in the cupboards, trying to seal the anxiety that pulsed beneath her calm exterior. After putting Scarlett and Jackson to bed, she allowed herself a few moments of quiet, looking up at the starry sky, seeking some peace before the storm she knew was approaching. It was almost midnight when the phone rang, slicing through the night's silence with its urgent tone. Olivia answered, her heart pounding. "Olivia, it's me, Ethan. Someone is trying to break in where I'm hiding. I can hear noises outside. It seems they know where I am. Try to stay in a safe place. They might come to you too." Olivia's blood ran cold. "I'll call Marco right now, and they'll send reinforcements to us." "Hold on, Ethan." Hanging up the phone, Olivia felt each heartbeat like a hammer in her consciousness. She knew the next few hours would be crucial. As she called Marco to inform him of the situation, a sense of despair took hold of her, mixed with a fierce determination. She wouldn't let fear define the end of this fight. Ethan had decided to face danger to tell the truth, and she would stand by him no matter what. The hours that followed Ethan's call were unbearably tense. Olivia could barely stay still, pacing the house while waiting for news. Finally, the sun began to brighten the sky, bringing with it the day of the trial that could change everything. Upon arriving at the courthouse, Olivia felt everyone's eyes on her. Some looks were sympathetic, others disdainful, and some carried a malicious gleam. Marco informed her that Ethan was safe, that the police had responded in time to prevent the worst. With that small relief, Olivia prepared to enter the courtroom, knowing that now everything was crucial. Ethan was already in the courtroom, looking pale and somewhat fragile, but his determination was palpable. They exchanged a look of complicity and strength before taking their places. The trial began with the prosecutor outlining the web of corruption, citing evidence and calling witnesses who bravely detailed how Alexander Lopez and his accomplices manipulated contracts and bribed officials. Ethan was one of the key witnesses, and his testimony was both a recounting of the corruption and an act of defiance. Olivia observed every face in the courtroom, trying to read their reactions. Alexander Lopez was present, impeccably dressed, his posture calm, but his eyes hard and cold. Beside him, his lawyers whispered fervently, taking notes on Ethan's every word. When it was Olivia's turn to testify, she walked to the front with firm steps despite the fear she felt. With each word she spoke, she exposed not only Alexander's crimes but also her own vulnerability. During a recess, as Olivia returned to her seat, a man she recognized as one of Alexander's closest associates approached her discreetly. He passed her a note. Olivia took it with trembling hands and unfolded it under the table, reading the hastily written words. "This won't end here. Be careful." Olivia's blood ran cold. She looked around to see if anyone else had noticed the exchange, but everyone was busy with their own conversations and preparations for the next session. When the trial resumed, Olivia felt each word of the threat burning in her mind. She tried to focus on the proceedings, on the lawyer's questions, on the witnesses' answers, but part of her was always alert, always waiting for the next blow. The courtroom was heavy with tension. People murmured, the air thick with anticipation. This isn't just a case of corruption, it's a matter of justice and humanity, Olivia declared, her voice echoing through the attentive silence of the courtroom. I chose not to remain silent because silence makes us complicit. I chose to fight, not for myself, but for all those who have no voice against this mafia. At the end of her testimony, a respectful silence hung in the air, broken only by the judge calling the next witness. Olivia returned to her seat, feeling the weight of her words settle on everyone's shoulders. When the court finally adjourned for the day, Olivia stood, exhausted but resilient. A crowd had gathered outside the courthouse. At the front were supporters of Alexander Lopez, their faces contorted with anger and disdain. They must have been threatened to be there, she thought, seeing them holding signs, shouting threatening words, and blocking her exit. The hatred in their eyes was evident and frightening. Olivia paused, her heart pounding erratically. Marco placed a hand on her shoulder, whispering, "We're not alone in this." Looking around, she saw that some in the courtroom, touched by her testimony, began to join her, forming a human shield. Together, they walked toward the exit, facing the shouts and hostile looks. Back at the refuge of her home after the confrontation at the courthouse, Olivia was relieved to see Scarlett and Jackson playing quietly on the living room floor. Their innocent laughter was a sharp contrast to the gravity Olivia felt after the testimony. She joined them on the floor, trying to find comfort in the normality of being a mother, but her mind was restless. What if I've gone too far? She wondered, looking at her children. What if my fight for justice only puts them in greater danger? Later, as she put them to bed, Olivia kissed their foreheads, trying to convey a calm she didn't feel. "Good night, my loves. Everything will be okay," she murmured, more as a promise to herself than as a guarantee to them. After ensuring they were asleep, Olivia sat at the table under the dim light, allowing herself a moment of despair. The fight seemed endless, and for a moment she pondered the possibility of giving up. Then the public phone on the street rang, its sound cutting through the night silence like an alarm signal. Hesitant, Olivia ran to it and answered, fearing it might be someone sent by Alexander. "Olivia Martin?" The voice on the other end was distorted, almost unrecognizable due to a voice modulator. "Yes." "Who's speaking?" Olivia replied, her voice trembling. "I can't tell you who I am, but I know what you need. I have in my possession one last piece of evidence that could turn the tide in your favor, one that can ensure Alexander Lopez and his accomplices don't escape this time." Olivia felt her heart race. "How can I believe you? How do I know this isn't a trap?" "You have no way of knowing," the voice admitted. "But I was the one who gave you the previous documents that proved some things about Alexander, so you know you're safe with me. I'll be at the city park at dawn. Alone. If you want the truth, come and find it." The call ended as abruptly as it had begun, leaving Olivia with the receiver still in her hand and a whirlwind of thoughts running through her mind. It was a chance, perhaps the last, to get what she needed to ensure justice, but it could also be a fatal risk. Olivia spent the night wide awake, pondering her decision. At the first light of dawn, she made her choice, strengthened by the thought that each step she took was for a cause greater than her own safety. With renewed determination, she prepared for the meeting, knowing that this could be the decisive turning point in her relentless fight for justice. At dawn, Olivia walked toward the city park where the meeting was set. The morning mist still covered the park, turning each bench and tree into a scene of mystery and tension. She remained alert, attentive to any suspicious movement. Finally, she spotted a solitary figure near the lake, wrapped in a large coat. Cautiously, Olivia approached, feeling that this moment could be both a trap and the key to her fight. The figure lowered the hood, revealing a woman with eyes marked by a somber resolution. "Olivia Martin?" the woman asked in a low voice. "Yes, that's me. You said you had something for me," Olivia replied, trying to maintain composure. The woman handed Olivia a thick envelope. "I'm a former assistant of Alexander Lopez. Here are recordings of Alexander admitting everything from bribes to manipulations. I can't live with this anymore. I hope it helps." Olivia held the envelope, her hands trembling. "Why now?" I saw what he did to people, to you, and I don't want to be part of it anymore. I thought being on his side would bring me safety, but it only brought guilt, the woman explained before quickly walking away, leaving Olivia with the recordings in her hands. Returning to the courthouse the next day, the recordings were played before the judge and jury. Alexander tried to defend himself, but the evidence was irrefutable. During the trial, Alexander was forced to admit his motivations in a shocking statement. I thought I could control everything and everyone. Power blinded me to justice and morality. I was wrong, Alexander confessed, his posture finally broken. At the end of the trial, the judge addressed Olivia directly before pronouncing the sentence. Mrs. Martin, your courage and determination not only exposed a deep network of corruption but also saved this community from future harm. It is only fair that you are compensated for your heroism and for all the hardships you faced. Thus, the judge ordered that a significant portion of the assets confiscated from Alexander Lopez be awarded to Olivia as a form of reparation and recognition for her crucial role in the case. With this financial reward, Olivia not only secured a bright educational future for Scarlett and Jackson but also acquired a new house, symbolizing a new beginning for the family. Weeks later, Olivia's story was frequently told as an example of courage and integrity. She had become an inspiring figure in her community, encouraging others to speak out against injustice and threats. You changed our city, Mama, Jackson said as they gazed at the starry sky from the yard of their new house. Olivia smiled, stroking her son's hair. We changed it, my love. All of us who chose to speak out, and we will continue to change it, always for the better. It was the peace of knowing the fight had been worth it, and that peace was the greatest reward of all. 5 years after the trial that shook the foundations of her city, Olivia watched her children in the yard of their new house, a spacious and sunlit home that symbolized the new life they had built. Scarlett, now a brilliant teenager, studied under the shade of a lush tree, while Jackson, older and almost a young man, helped with the garden plants. The education Olivia had secured with the financial reward had transformed their lives. Scarlett showed a remarkable talent for science, dreaming of becoming an engineer, while Jackson developed a passion for literature, often found with a book in hand, lost in worlds created by words. Finally, Olivia had found a stable job, and the children no longer faced any hardship, living happily alongside their mother. The community around them had also changed. Where fear and corruption once reigned, a spirit of cooperation and justice now flourished. Olivia had played a crucial role in this transformation, not just as the woman who challenged Alexander Lopez, but as an inspiring figure who continued to work with the community to ensure the shadows of the past did not return. Alexander Lopez and his accomplices, after being sentenced, spent their days in prison. The recordings brought by his former assistant had been the final blow to his web of corruption, dismantling not only his illicit operations but also serving as a warning to others who ventured down similar paths. Ethan, who had recovered from his injuries, had become the local police chief, leading an era of reforms and transparency within the force. He and Olivia maintained a strong friendship, united by a shared history of struggle and overcoming. Ethan frequently visited Olivia's house, each visit a reminder of their shared journey and the bonds they formed. One peaceful afternoon, during one of Ethan's visits, Olivia prepared tea while reflecting on the impact of her story. Her fight had been turned into a local documentary, used in schools as a lesson on the importance of integrity and courage. It's strange to think that our story is studied. I just returned the money and reported what I discovered. I just did my part, commented Olivia. But it's important, Ethan replied. It's a reminder that no matter how difficult the battle, it's worth fighting for what's right. No matter the difficulty, it's essential to stay honest, he continued. Ethan's company always brought laughter and a welcome energy. They sat in the garden as the sun set behind the trees, the conversation flowing between the past and the future, between memories of dark times and plans for a brighter tomorrow. You changed our city, Olivia. You changed our lives, Ethan said, raising his glass in a toast. Olivia smiled, looking at her children who joined them. We changed it, all of us. And we will continue to change it, always for the better. As night fell over the city that once trembled under the weight of corruption, Now illuminated by the promise of justice and renewal, Olivia felt truly at peace, not only for having won the battle, but for knowing that her fight would inspire others not to fear the darkness, to stand up and speak out, no matter how powerful the forces against them. In that truth, Olivia found not only peace but a purpose that would define the rest of her days. The end. If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing heartwarming stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your support. See you soon.